This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 347, Demand Side Selling, an interview with Bob Moesta.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and this is the podcast that brings selling secrets with terrific guests who generously give of themselves advice that you can use to improve your selling process. But every so often, once in a while, I get a guest on here that really makes me think. Someone who has a clarity about this whole process of sales and marketing in a way that nobody else does. And that's our guest today. Bob Moesta is the author of the new book called Demand Side Sales. And Bob does something that a lot of guests don't do. He really made me uncomfortable in the conversation. And we did this by having a conversation about something that I'm looking to buy. And it kind of explaining to me what's going through my mind, why I'm answering the way I'm answering, and the kinds of questions that the seller should be asking. This isn't about selling. This is about understanding that there's a buyer process, not a selling process. Not supply side sales, supply of the product or service that you have and trying to find people that match with it, but demand side sales. We're trying to understand who demands this, who needs this, and who are the people who believe that your product or service can make progress for them. And so, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Bob. Are you ready to babble?
I am.
Bob, we were introduced through Kelly Teamer the other day, and I was on your LinkedIn, and it's that you're a lifelong innovator and a co-architect, jobs to be done theory.
Yeah.
What's the jobs to be done theory?
Okay. Oh, that's a great question. So jobs to be done theory is basically the fact is like I'm dyslexic, and one of the aspects is I can't read and I can't write. And so one of the things that I did is I had to actually figure out a way to understand what customers said when they wanted things. And the jobs to be done theory is really something I co-architected with Clay Christensen from the Harvard Business School. But the notion is people don't buy things, they hire them to make progress in their lives. And so most of the time we just focus on the transactional part of buying. But the reality is that every time somebody buys something, they're actually stopping one thing and starting something else. And they're doing it because they're trying to make progress in their lives. And so what job do you hire like a new mattress for, or a new, basically buying a new phone, or basically this podcast? What do you hire it for? And so it's not just the fact that you create the podcast, but what progress are you trying to make because of it?
So you see it as a job, but sometimes it's more of an experience that people want.
That's right. But all products are services, actually, right? So if you think about it, it's like, again, I can buy a new phone, but it's not the phone itself. It's what the phone does for me, right? Or to be honest, what the sandwich does for me. So
products or services, huh?
Yeah, all products are services. That's the way I look at it.
I've never thought of it that way. I've often thought of it sometimes the other way around.
Yep.
Why do you see it like that?
Because at some point in time, products are usually seen as static things. And as long as I deliver the product, people will be satisfied. But it's people using the product that actually make them satisfied. And so it's the use of the thing, not the thing, that actually drives satisfaction. And so most people think of a product as a snapshot, and I think of an experience or a job as a movie. And so what's the movie that has to play out for you to be satisfied for whatever you buy?
Interesting. Like I'm starting to do shop. I'm shopping for a truck.
Oh, perfect.
I think of it as a product.
You do, but at some point in time, when you start to think about it, like, how's it going to fit in your life? And what do you drive now?
Right.
Right. And so part of it is to me, I would go off and interview you on basically why now, what's pushing you, what's pulling you, what anxieties do you have, what habits do you have, and what are you hiring this new truck to do for you? Right? Is it about really just getting rid of the old one, or is it really more about doing something new that you haven't had a truck before that you want to buy a boat?
Yeah.
And so it's the combination of most people talk about the pain and the gain, but it's the combination of those two things together that actually form the job.
You're exactly right. Because that's the conversation I have going on in my head in the purchasing of this truck.
Yep.
It's the experiences that I want to have with it and why my current vehicle can't do that.
Yep. Well,
Fascinating.
and what are you missing out on? And so all of a sudden you start to realize like, my current vehicle's fine, but now I can't do these things. And so you start to say, well, I could rent, but then I would, or I could buy another car and not sell the one I have, or buy the truck and not sell the one, but then I don't have enough room. And so ultimately there's all these trade-offs you have to make. So the whole notion of this book I wrote called Demand Side Sales is we need to actually sit in the seat of the people buying our products and services and understand the journey they go through and understand the trade-offs and the pushes and the pulls, the anxieties and habits that they have to live in order to say, today's the day I'm going to buy a new truck. Because it's not random. There's no randomness about anything you're doing about trying to buy your truck.
No, there isn't.
Now, most salespeople treat sales as if it is random, right? 100 calls, and then, of 100 calls, I get, 22 appointments. 22 appointments will get me, 14 proposals. 14 proposals will get me 2 sales.
Well, that's the numbers game.
That's exactly right. And that's not that. See, the thing is,
random. That's actually using probability. I think that's
but the aspect is that they don't understand that everybody buys for their own reasons, and the people that aren't ready doesn't mean they're not going to buy today, but that doesn't mean they're not going to buy tomorrow or in the future. And so by understanding the dominoes that have to fall in your life to say today's the day I'm going to buy a new truck, the reality is like it's about a set of things that have to happen. And understanding those set of things actually enable us to then figure out the causality behind it.
Uh-oh.
So that's the premise of Jobs to Be Done. And what I would say is I'm more the practitioner of Jobs to Be Done. And the co-architect is Clayton Christensen from the Harvard Business School. And he basically kept telling me we need to turn this into a theory. And I kept going like, it's just the way that I develop products. So sure, if you want to turn it into theory, let's do it. But I didn't actually know what it meant, but he turned it into a way to look at and use it as a generalized set of principles that we can apply to not only products and services, but like, why do, what job do you hire a religion for? What job do teachers hire schools for? What employees, they actually hire companies more than companies hire employees. And so what job do you hire your company for?
Right. So there's a way of thinking that I've often heard that there's no such thing as a sales process, that it's really a buying process. That's something
That's right.
I heard when you started speaking about this new book that you have, Demand Side Sales.
Yep. And so I talk about this notion of there's a supply side of the world. So I'm an engineer, and like I said, I've been breaking things for 50 years. I've been fixing things for about 45 years, but I've been building things for 30 years. And one of the things is I was always taught build it and they will come, but that's just not true. And so everything that we end up thinking about it from a sales and marketing perspective always revolves around the product and the service, and then who would buy the product and service. And what you start to realize is when you look at it from the demand side of like, why does somebody buy a new truck? Why does somebody buy a new mattress? Why does somebody buy a new piece of software? It literally is about a struggling moment in their lives that basically has something where they can't do what they want to do, or the fact is the old one, you have this worry that the old thing's going to give out, and that it has these implications of what we call social and emotional and functional needs. And as we frame it that way, you start to realize that you have to make trade-offs to do all that. And so our sales process ends up following, it's actually really a sales funnel. And the only way to get out of the funnel is one way, which is to go through it. Right. And ultimately the fact is, but it all focuses on the product. But the reality is, like, if we ask, what's the buying timeline? How do people buy your product, and what progress do they make by doing it? So it's not just about the transaction, but everything from what we call the first thought through passive looking, and then active looking, and then deciding, and then first use and ongoing. Like, how do we look at the entire aspect of when does somebody actually say, today's the day I need a new piece of software?
So that's interesting. So let's think of that as a sales funnel. Instead of saying in the sales funnel that they're a lead, that they're a qualified lead, that I've scheduled an appointment, that I've given a demo, that I've gotten a verbal close, I actually get a purchase order from them. Think about that.
Yep.
What What if we did it from another point of view, like from the buyer's point of view?
Yep.
I'm thinking about buying a truck.
Yep.
You know, I'm going on a trip next year. I'm
Yep.
like, is that what we're talking about?
Exactly. And so what happens is you start to realize is like a lot of people say I gave them a demo and then they ghosted me. Well, when you actually dig into it, they didn't ghost you. What happened is your demo actually made them think about 5 new things that they didn't actually know about, that then moved them from active looking back into passive looking because it was just too complicated. So at some point you could say that they think that they're avoiding you, but the reality is they're not avoiding you. The fact you're trying to figure out these other things. And then 3 months later, they come back and they're ready to buy. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened. But the reality is like the way they end up buying is that a demo, and 9 times out of 10, a demo does not necessarily help them make progress. It actually opens the door to have them have to answer more questions. And so part of this is which are good questions to be asking, by the way. But the reality is part of it is that, we can't convince anybody of anything. They convince themselves. And so starting with and understanding, why do people buy? What causes them to say today's the day? And what progress are they hoping to make? And what trade-offs are they willing what are they willing to give up in order to get? By understanding these pathways, you actually then makes it actually way easier to sell. Because you're not actually selling, you're helping them make progress. So the book was actually written for all these people who don't understand that they actually, like, think of a teacher. A teacher actually sells a lesson to a student, but nobody would say it that way. And a doctor sells a rehab program to a patient, but they don't do it that way either. But it's the same notion of like, how do I help the student make progress? How do I help the patient make progress? And so there's things I have to actually set up and things I actually have to do to help them do that. And so if I put their interest in mind and actually understand the underlying causal mechanisms to get there, it makes it way easier for me to actually, it turns out that I sell, but I sell with the frame of basically helping them make progress.
So what do you think then are the steps there? What are the steps that salespeople should be making as they walk a prospective client through the process?
So one of the things that I've been doing is flipping that lens to understanding how they buy and actually asking the customers or the prospects where they're at. So for example, in your truck situation, have you gone and looked at the trucks yet? So where are you in your buying process?
Shopping online, looking online.
Yep.
I narrowed it down to a vehicle, and now
Yeah.
I'm thinking I need to go drive one. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Why haven't you went and drive one yet? I mean, you got time. If anything, the pandemic has done is made time for you. Why haven't you found the time?
Oh, I just kind of decided last weekend which ones I want to look at.
That's right. So do you have it on your schedule?
No.
Yeah. So this is where I would say you're in what we call passive looking, right? You're talking a lot about it. You haven't really invested real time. You're looking when you actually are doing other things, right? And at some point you're noticing other trucks on the road and your neighbor's got one down the street and you talk to him about it. And then you've literally read the reviews and you're doing all the things ready. But active looking requires you to basically be ready to be honest, not to be so like, you're going to walk in, like if I drive one, they're going to sell me right then and there. And I don't want it right yet. My car's still all right. And oh, by the way, do you have anybody else you have to talk to about this purchase, or are you making this purchase alone?
Yeah, I would make it with my wife.
Yeah. So have you told your wife about a truck?
Yeah.
What is she? What do you mean? Yeah. How long have you and your wife been talking about it?
Yeah, she's on board. I probably can make this.
How do you know she's on board? I just got to ask, how do you know she's on board?
She said so.
She said so. Like, so what are you giving up to get this truck? What car are you not going to have? What are you going to sell?
Nothing. We're going to
nothing. You're going to buy another vehicle.
Another one, yeah.
You're going to add another vehicle. So how many vehicles do you have?
2 right now.
You have 2 right now. So you're going to have, this means you're going to leave a car out of the garage, or do you have a 3-car garage?
No, one's going to be outside because.
Oh, what car is going to stay outside? Do you know that?
Yeah, it's a long story.
See, so all of a sudden, this is the part, is that you haven't thought through all the trade-offs you have to make yet. And so you might go and drive it, but then all of a sudden it's going to be like, all right, well, where are we going to park it, and how much is the insurance? And then all of a sudden, like, when do I drive it? Like, if I'm working from, all these other details you haven't worked out, so you're still what I call passive looking.
Yes.
And so part of it is, and I haven't even talked about the truck yet. Like, why do you want a truck?
Yes.
Right? And so it's so the whole point is just being able to understand, like, what, like, I don't even know why you want the truck at this point, but I already know where you're at. Now the question is what progress are you, what can a truck give you? Like, you're not even going to get rid of the vehicle. So why not get rid of your old vehicle, by the way?
Because it's not worth anything.
So part of this is your old car is not necessarily reliable. It's not really worth anything. But the fact is, like, at some point I might as well I'll get the new truck. But what are you going to save the old car for? When are you going to drive that?
I don't know.
So all of a sudden now there's all these things. The main reason why you want to just get a new car and not the old one's not worth anything. And it's like, might as well have it around. But all of a sudden it's going to be, well, somebody's gonna have to move it around. The fact is you're gonna have to insure it. Right. And is there anybody, who, are you saving it? Is it a car? How long have you had the old car?
Since 2007. So
is this a classic car? Is this a car that you love?
It's not a classic car.
It's not a classic car.
Bought a brand new.
You bought a brand new. Is it time? But why not put it out to pasture? Is it not ready? You can't do it.
It's still got young. It's still got
miles. Yeah.
So
this is what we call allegiance to the past, the habit. Like, at some point, the hard part is now I got to add to my portfolio, as opposed to if it broke down and it was at the shop. My belief is you could actually go buy the truck tomorrow. Putting another $1,500 or $2,000 in the car that doesn't owe you anything and isn't really worth much is not as good as you can actually have a brand new truck.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, the current car I have right now, I bought it for that very reason. The current vehicle I had died, and I was like, I'm not putting any more money into this. I went and bought a car without much preparation, and I regret it. I regret that purchase, actually.
Right.
And I don't want to make that mistake again.
Right. But part of this is to realize, like, you're not ready. Now, here's the thing is, I can't tell whether you're going to make the purchase in the next week, the next month, or the next 2 months. But I know that there's a couple of things that have to happen. Right. One is you're going to have to go, like, so how many different trucks are you looking at?
Right. Right now I'm just one, I guess.
Just one. So you've already fallen in love. You already know which one it is.
Yeah, I think so.
So the reality is, like, you just need to make sure it's not bad.
That's a good way of looking at it.
So the worst thing that they can do is show you 3 different trucks, and then you're going to, like, do you know what color you want?
I don't care.
You don't care. So if you don't care about the color, what do you care about?
That the truck can pull a trailer.
Oh, what's on the trailer?
What do you mean what's on the trailer? It's a camper.
So you're gonna put a camper on the back, or you're gonna pull a Do you own the camper, or are you gonna buy a camper?
No, it's been ordered. We'll get it till October.
Oh, so you've already ordered the camper. So there's the number one thing. So you bought a camper.
I've been waiting for you to ask me that.
Yeah. I know you have. And you've been holding back. See, here, like most prospects, you're holding back, right?
Yeah.
All right. But at the same time, the fact is so when does the new camper come?
October 2021. Long
time. So you've got a year.
I got plenty of time.
Plenty of time. And so are you going to look for a deal, or are you going to look for the best? Or both?
Probably the best.
All right. And so who else do you know anybody else who has one of these campers?
No, not really. No,
not really. And so how do you know? How did you find the best truck to go with this camper?
It's what it can tow. The truck I'm looking at can easily tow this vehicle, easy peasy.
Yeah, but almost any truck can it?
Yeah. So
what is it about this truck?
It's small. It's not huge.
It's small. What do you mean it's small?
I'm looking at a Ford Ranger.
You're looking at a Ford Ranger. So
Mm-hmm.
it's smaller than what, an F-150.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's is it like the size? But there's a Colorado. There's all these other vehicles out there that are almost the same thing, right?
It's Tacomas. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The Tacoma, right? So all of a sudden it's like and so, but you're looking at the Ford. Why a Ford? Is your current car a Ford?
It's as you said before. It's I've done a lot of investigation and research online.
But what research did you see that said the Ford is the right one?
Bunch of YouTube videos.
And what did they say?
They they said the pros and the cons.
Which are?
It's a really solid engine.
Okay.
What's your point here?
So my point is, have you really done the homework, or have you not done the homework, and you've just watched a bunch of YouTube videos and you think that the Ford is the best thing, but you don't actually know the detailed difference between the torque or the horsepower or the fact of the towing, or what are the real things you're worried about? And so you're relying on other people to actually help specify what you want,
Yes.
right? As opposed to you actually knowing what you want.
Yes.
That's my point. And so part of this is so as you're getting uncomfortable, I'm actually realizing like you actually don't know that much about the vehicle. Besides, it has the power and it's small enough.
Yes, that's right.
Like so as
Which
much as I'm pushing you to make you uncomfortable, because at some point in time I want to know how much do you really know that this is the right vehicle? Because there might be another vehicle here that's actually better for you.
It's possible.
But you've let YouTube actually kind of give you enough confidence to say this is the thing, because you really don't like shopping for a vehicle.
But this is the thing, right? Right. And I've seen people do this, that they've made an assumption that I'm pretty close to buying. I'm so far away from
You're so
buying.
far. Now, here's the thing is we have what we call a time wall. October 2021 that's the time wall. And as you get closer and closer to it, you're going to start to actually, so here's the thing. You're going to drive your vehicle and it's going to go and everything's going to happen. If something happens to it, you might actually have to buy that vehicle sooner because you already know you're going to have to get it. You can't you've already made the commitment to the trailer, right? And so part of it is watching the health of this car. And the thing is something might go and it might cost you a couple $100, but the mechanic's going to go like, the brakes are going to go, you're going to need new tires. And you're like, okay, I need to do something with that before I get this new truck.
Right.
And so you're going to walk into the dealership with no intent to actually sell the car with it. And when they say, oh, we'll take it, we'll give you $1,000 for the car, because right now your expectation is $0. It's like, well, I'll take it because now I don't have to worry about any of that other stuff.
Yeah, I might. I don't
know. my only point is that
I have done that in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
But by understanding the causal mechanisms and understanding that, oh, I have a trailer that's coming in 2021, understanding the fact that you've looked, but you really haven't looked. And the fact is at some point in time, you have something in mind, but there's really not pressure. You're still in that passive looking stage. It's not until and even though you might go drive it, the fact is you're driving it because you got time. You don't actually have to make the decision. It's the moment when they start to actually say, do you want the XLT or do you want the titanium version, or do you just want the basic version? So all of a sudden you're going to have these other decisions you're going to have to start to make.
Did you just Google this?
No, I'm not even looking it up. I work for Ford out of school. Right. But here's the thing is this doesn't matter whether you're trying to buy a car. I'm interested in what you're trying to buy and why you're trying to buy it. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Ultimately, I need to know if my product can fit into or my service can fit into your life. But my main passion and the whole reason for why it's called demand side sales is by being interested and being curious of why you're actually looking for something new, I can actually then figure out whether I can help you or not.
Where did sellers get this wrong?
Sellers focus on the product and they assume that everybody who is reaching out is a prospect who we need to close. And the fact is most consumers don't actually know what they want in the first place. Here's the better part is, why'd you buy the trailer? Because the trailer is actually more important than the truck.
The thing is, right, we're in fact, they'll often say that, right? That become an expert on your product, and your company, and
Yep.
Do a SWOT analysis on you and the competition, and
Yep.
understand what makes you unique and you stand out, and as opposed to
Know your customer, know why they're buying from you, know how to help them make progress. That's the real message. So the thing is I'm not saying you don't need to know your product, but the thing is half the time we scare people because we tell them way too much. We don't actually know what it's like. If I started to talk price with you now about your truck, you'd be like, I don't know what I'm going to spend. It's too early to talk price. Because at some point, are you going to buy the truck or are you leasing the truck? Right? That's the question we should be talking about, not like what's the final payment. And what happens is we try to get you to push another truck out the door because I have a quota for this month. They can basically sell so many trucks. And so I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get you into a truck today. That's what goes wrong, is they don't actually listen to what you say. And that's why most people are so like Carvana is killing it because you don't have to go to a dealer anymore. There's no more, all the negotiating.
That brings up that was the next question I was going to ask. They do this for a reason. If this is bad business, they would stop being pushy, selling vehicles.
And there are people doing that now. That's the whole thing. Tesla's doing it. Carvana's doing it. There's something called Gear down in Atlanta. There's all these people who are now who are basically the point of like, let us help you figure out what you want to do next. And most people are appreciative that they help them. The thing is most people feel like they have to protect themselves walking into a dealer. Why is that?
We all know why that is.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like furniture's the same way. Why is furniture that way? Right. Here's the thing is what causes somebody to buy a new mattress? It's not a sale because there's one every week.
Yeah.
Right. It's, I can't sleep at night, or I got a new house and I got an extra room and my mother-in-law's coming to visit, or my kid just grew out of his bed, or the fact is I'm redecorating my bedroom. Like, but a new mattress, there's only 5 or 6 reasons. There's not 1,000 reasons. And I can't convince you to buy it beforehand. But when do those things come up in your lives? I know exactly how to help you do it. And so so I've been developing products for 30 years and I've been able to figure out how to help people make progress. And I use technology to do that. But ultimately, I'm never pushing my technology. I'm literally pushing how do they make progress. And so my whole thing is I wrote this book for 2 main reasons. One is for all those people in the world who really don't like sales and it feels really icky. That was me, right? In my second startup, I sold countertops. Like everybody was a prospect. Everybody wanted more colors, all these different things. And what I found out is like, all I had to do is help them make their kitchen look better. Once I did that and say, what does progress look like for you? I was able to actually go from 64 colors to 12. I was able to go from a very elaborate measuring process to 3 steps. And I took the company from 500,000 to almost 20 million in 18 months. Right. So that's the notion here is that we fall in love with our product and then try to convince people to buy our product. We need to fall in love with the customer and their problem and understand how to morph our product to fit into their lives.
That's a problem many inventors fall into.
Yes. Here's what I say is a kick-ass half is better than a half-ass whole. Too many people want to put everything in the kitchen sink in it. And the reality is like, I can actually have something that's it's kick-ass on half of the important things. And it still kills the what I would call is the full thing out of the water, blows it out of the water. And then let's be clear, invention is not innovation in my book. Like a Segway, which is an amazing piece of equipment, right? Just unbelievable. That's an invention. But birds is actually the innovation that actually stopped people from walking. And it's literally 1/1000th the price.
Right?
I told you I had 3 close head brain injuries when I was young, so I think differently for sure.
Right. Said you had dyslexia.
Yeah.
People want to find your book, Bob.
Yep.
Where would they go?
They go to Amazon. Where else do you go? Right? Amazon. And it's Demand Side Sales 101. Stop selling and help your customers make progress. And it's just about the language we talked about and ways in which to interrogate, to be honest, or investigate and be curious about why people are pulling your product or their products into their lives.
And if people want to bump into you, people want to reach out to you.
Twitter is probably the best place at Moesta, Moesta, or therewiredgroup.com is my design studio. And then otherwise, I teach at Northwestern and then guest lecture, Harvard, MIT, Columbia, places like that. Yep.
Bob, this has been great having you babble here on Sales Babble.
It was babbling, that's for sure. I hope your listeners enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thanks, man.
So this is what Bob said. People don't buy things. They hire them to make progress in their lives. The job's to be done theory. Pow! Wow, it just blows me away. I'm not kidding you. I'd never ever thought about that. That what people are doing is they're hiring a product or a service to do something for them. And the kinds of questions we need to be asking, as he mentioned here, was why now? What's pushing you? What's pulling you? What anxieties do you have? What habits do you have? Why are you hiring this product? What duties do you want it to do for you? And you can hear him asking those questions to me, and you can hear me like stepping back because it's pretty clear. I haven't overly thought out what kind of truck I want to buy or anything. I'm just starting to dabble in that. How many times have we heard this in our own customers? Our own prospects, I should say. How many times have we heard them like backing away? And what our job to do really is to help them, to help facilitate them and bring them along, to be a Sherpa of sorts, as Dave Fisher likes to say. Or something I heard a long time from Patty Keating where she said, your job is to help the buyer make a decision that's good for them. After we turned off the mics, Bob and I kept chatting, and it was just pearls what he was saying. Luckily, I recorded it, guys and gals. And that's what we're going to do next week. Next week, we're going to have part 2 of Demand Side Sales. Again, extremely illuminating. Can't wait to share it with you. To find links with Bob, go to www.salesbabble.com. You can find the show notes on the front page. Right on the front page, I have all the podcasts. The most recent podcasts pop right up. Just click on the link, and you'll see the show notes. And as well as you can listen to the podcast there, too. If you got any questions for me or Bob, click the Babble Me button. More than happy to answer any questions that you have. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. Would really appreciate that. Word of mouth is one of the best ways that podcasts get shared with the world. So until next week, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.